All right, welcome everybody to Ask the Experts. I know a bunch of you guys are now trickling in. Hopefully you guys can all see the slides up here. For those that are now fully in, we're going to jump right into it. This is the Ask the Expert session, making Microsoft Teams rooms even smarter. We've got an awesome panel of two incredible experts from Crestron Electronics that I'm going to be introducing in a second. Quick introduction of who I am. I'm going to be your moderator today. My name is Andrew Gross. I work for Crestron and I run our UC business around the globe here. We're going to go through a couple quick housekeeping slides, but really this is an Ask the Expert session, so I want to get to the experts as quickly as possible. So quick housekeeping, obviously how to engage with the experts. Use chat. If this is your first Ask the Expert session, please make sure you guys ask your questions all in the chat. Questions will appear to all the attendees, but only specific ones will be published. Please make sure you are, of course, appropriate with that. And if you do see a question from somebody else that you really want an answer from, use the upvote button. That'll get the attention of our second moderator, Joe Saracen, who is monitoring the chat the entire time. We'll answer quick questions to the chat, but also publish the questions to myself so that I can ask our experts. Of course, quick slide about Microsoft Code of Conduct. It is also provided here in the chat from our producer, Joe. Thank you, sir. This session may be recorded, but please do help our moderators. Do not spam with inappropriate comments. And obviously, if you'd like to read more about the Code of Conduct, you can read it here in the chat or here on this slide. Most importantly, let's get to the show and meet our experts. So our first expert we have here with us today is Jimmy Vaughan. Jimmy Vaughan is the technical director for UC Enterprise for the USA at Crestron Electronics. A quick understanding of who Jimmy is. Jimmy is responsible for making sure the vision of the technology manager is brought to life by the engineering team, but has also been with Crestron for 19 years in several different roles. And of course, now as a technical director, really going out there and evangelizing the UC specific product line. The second expert we have on the line is Mr. Graham Walsh, who is the technical director for Crestron Electronics in EMEA. And Graham Walsh has been with Crestron now for a couple of years. However, has been in the IT and telecom industry for over 25 years, mainly focusing on UC, video conferencing, and telepresence, and has an incredible following on his blog as well that I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen on the Graham Walsh side of things. Now, before we jump right into the experts, I just want to say one last thing for those that maybe jumped in late. Please ask questions. This is an Ask the Expert session. I will be monitoring the chat and seeing those that have been upvoted the most and ask those to the experts. Without further ado, I want to jump right to the experts themselves as we have a question already teed up here with 3 big upvotes. And this one comes from Mercedes Green. The question is going to Jimmy. Mercedes asks, we apply a license to the room and they understand that it's available to use. However, if the customer sends a Teams meeting using their account, they all internally connect to it. But then how do they assign this existing meeting to the room that they are all in so they can use the camera and the mic? Meaning, how do we assign it during an existing meeting that maybe our customer set up?
Graham, help me out here. I think what they're asking is how do they get an external meeting into their tenant? If I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of how do you get the room into any meeting, basically?
So there's a couple of things you can do. Number one, in O365, you're going to have to use PowerShell to actually enable this. And there's a command that we can publish that actually allows external meetings to be accepted. A lot of times what you see inside of your tenant is it's forwarded a meeting from outside your domain. And the system just doesn't pick up the information. And the reason why it doesn't pick up the information is because the information that's in the body of that text is actually stripped out. So by using a PowerShell command, you can actually change it so that that external meeting can actually be accepted by the room system and know exactly how to use that single touch join.
Awesome. And I think just to add to that again, if you get the invite personally to your own Outlook Exchange account, then you can just forward that onto that room. So you forward it on internally again, as Jimmy says, you've got to make sure your PowerShell is set up and it can process these invites and ensure that there's no safe links that are going to modify the URL join. So yeah, very similar to things like guest join access if you want to forward invites to meeting
That's a
rooms.
good point too, Graham. The safe links. What we've seen a lot of times in the past with external customers is they do the PowerShell command, but then the safe links that are actually enabled by some of the Microsoft providers actually picks up that invite and says, "Hey, I can't forward this." Back in the Skype room system days, it was actually a TNEF, encapsulated formula that actually was blocked. Now they still use the same kind of thing where they use all of the metadata that's actually inside of the body of the message to actually populate those meetings, and it's going to get a little bit trickier, I think, Graham, as we get into the guest join access of Cisco and Zoom as well. I think we're going to see a lot of that where people are sort of getting it from outside their domain, and they're wondering why it doesn't pick it up. And a lot of times you can actually just use that PowerShell, but there are times where that safe links will come in as well.
And I think
so Jimmy, actually on that topic, I'd like to transition to this next big question that's been upvoted the most here. Is there a time frame when direct join to Zoom meetings will be available via MTR? The guest join is the number one thing. Now, Microsoft last year, they showed it at Ignite. They actually showed it working. They were actually on the way to producing it. Some things happened during COVID, during the situation that the world is in right now, which delayed it for a little while. So what they did was they actually released the Cisco side first, and that's actually GA right now. But the Zoom side is actually in tap. I expect it, Graham, help me out. I believe it's like this week or next week that it's actually going GA. What Microsoft does a lot is they actually put it into the TAP program. They have to see a certain amount of hours that are on that feature before they'll actually release it and put it to the public. I think it's been satisfied. I think everything is there. I would expect to see it in the next week or two, and it's going to be identical to the way that the Cisco guest join is. One of the things, if I can help you guys out a little bit, I think you're going to see more partners come into this guest join. I think you're going to see that opportunity actually open up as Microsoft actually adds partners to this program.
I think probably just to add to that as well, guest join access for Zoom, as Jimmy says, it's in testing, waiting for final validation. And I think, we can't talk about NDA stuff here, but, when the product manager was Greg, he mentioned it's, near validation. So within the next few weeks, I would say it may go live, as long as they hit, no roadblocks. And as Jimmy says, with a certain number of hours and testing that everyone's doing, and we're, everyone else that does in the community that helps test this feature and validate it. So yeah, we're not far off, I guess.
Yeah, this is actually a very common theme, it seems like, from a lot of the questions. So I'm going to stay on this theme to the experts. The next question for you both is, there's actually twofold. Are there any Teams Room devices that can support dual 4K TVs? And then as part of that same question, which is going along this theme, are there any Teams Room systems out there that you're aware of that are compatible to join other non-Teams web-based meetings? As an example, using Teams meetings, but a customer wants to meet over Zoom. How is that typically handled, and with what devices?
So I'll take the first one, and I'll hand it over to the king of cloud video interop right after that one. So the 4K question, we get the 4K question a lot with the output of the systems. A lot of the systems do support 4K output. The truth is that Teams is a 1080p platform. Whether you're on video here, whether you're looking at it inside of the system that is even on your desktop, 1080p is really where the standard is. I don't expect Microsoft to go to 4K anytime soon. I know sharing through the system, everybody wants that 4K experience so that you can get that resolution through. I think it's a nice feature to have, but I don't think it's enough of a pressing feature right now that it's going to be on the top of their roadmap. I think 4K is something that a lot of the systems, I know the Crestron systems actually have that capability of outputting. Microsoft has been working on things. Maybe they'll do something in the future, but right now there is no room system that actually has a 4K output capability, and that's because the requirements document that actually Microsoft purchases to be an MTR has a 1080p resolution output, and that's it. I know that some of the collab bars actually were locked at 720p for a little while, and I think one of the big announcements from Ignite is those collab bars are actually coming feature parity with the MTRs. But Graham, you want to talk about how you do Zoom, how you do all those through the cloud video interop and the other options that we have as well?
Sure. So, yeah, the second part of that question is how do we join other meeting platforms? So we know obviously a Microsoft Teams room can do native Microsoft Teams. Don't forget, it can still do Skype for Business. And also WebEx in the guest join access, and then very shortly Zoom. One of the common questions is, yeah, how do I talk outside of this sort of native world? So within the Microsoft Teams room, it still has a Skype for Business client in there. So what that is able to do is actually reach any other Federation services. So for example, if you're using video interop as a gateway, you can then pass through using the Skype side of the system to dial something else. So you could hit that third-party platform and use the sort of Skype interop using Open Federation to talk to there. Again, that will depend on your enterprise settings, whether you're closed federation or open federation, or you have to whitelist your domains. So it is technically possible, but the only caveat I would say around there is it's not that user friendly. It's not that click to join. It's I need to type in a number at domain, etc. So having native, and as Jimmy says, hopefully we'll see some other guest join experiences. Microsoft have now got that platform of using WebRTC. They know the join mechanism, so hopefully we'll see some other third-party, meeting platforms in the guest join world as well.
And one of the important things to sort of note about CVI is Microsoft publishes this. They view the CVI, or the Cloud Video Interop, just as a temporary solution. They know that people have systems inside of their organization that they need to amortize. They've spent a whole bunch of money on these systems, and there's no organization in the world that will ever rip out an entire conference room system from all of their conference rooms and then switch over overnight. So they have CVI as a temporary solution as you're going to these MTR devices. Whether that be the MTR, the collab bars, or anything else, they always want you in a native Microsoft solution. And the reason why they want you there is so that you can take advantage of all the features that they're actually showing here at Ignite. There's things like whiteboard collaboration. There's things like there's things like proximity join, and there's whiteboarding available, and so many things that actually live inside of that MTR that the CVI just doesn't do. And the biggest one, like Graham said, is just that single touch to join. When you've got that single touch to join, all your users just have an easy responsibility of coming into the room and just hitting that single touch experience.
Absolutely. Thank you, experts. All right, that's a great point. But we're going to move topics now to the next big upvoted question. This one, it comes and it's asked about camera support. Will there be multi-camera support, not content camera, but actually dual camera, which is obviously a huge thing for large boardrooms?
Yeah, this is something that's a little bit tricky to sort of explain, and I'm glad we're talking about it rather than typing it in, because I think this explains a lot of things. This needs a lot of explanation. If you get a Skype meeting and you send the system a Skype meeting, and you hold down the camera button on that Skype meeting invite, you'll see that you have the availability of actually choosing a number of different cameras that are connected to the system. With Teams invites, you don't have that same capability yet. Microsoft has said publicly that they do intend to support multi-camera at some point in the future. And that's something that I think a lot of people are sort of waiting for, but it goes towards their roadmap, and it goes towards what do you really want first? Let's say that you have 100 rooms in your organization, just as an example. How many rooms are going to use that dual camera support? Maybe 2 or 3. So if you're looking at it, there's 97 other rooms that you have to feature, that you may want feature-rich items to be inside of those rooms, and those will probably be at the forefront of what Microsoft is working on. I know that they've added a whole bunch of different cameras. The AVER camera, I'm actually on an AVER camera right now. I think they're spectacular. The PTZ ability that they have inside of the room is just sort of another level that Microsoft has added to be top of class solution. But the dual camera solution or the multi-camera solution, it's something that I know that they've said publicly that they're working on. It's just not there yet in Teams. So I don't know where it falls in, but I wouldn't expect to see it anytime soon.
Got it.
I think just to finish on that bit, in terms of timelines, again, publicly announced on the tech community and Twitter, we're looking towards the end of this year, early next year. So it's not anytime soon, should we say, but it's definitely on their radar. And again, it's on user voice, so you can go and upvote it as well.
Great. Thank you, Graham. All right, Graham, I'm going to stay on you for this one. This one comes from Ed. A quick question is, when will 3x3 and 7x7 be available in MTR?
So yeah, everyone's favorite question. Let's call this feature parity with the desktop client and the room system. So a lot of things are migrating and merging. So when we see things on the desktop client, they will be landing on the room systems shortly after. Obviously, they need a slightly different validation, but things like 3x3 video, again, very soon. Can't talk dates, but that is coming. That has been worked on. And again, a lot of these services are websites, so it's not actually dependent on the Microsoft Teams app because it's delivered from the cloud. So it's just obviously Microsoft need to validate all these features, again, in their TAP program. And then once they're happy, then they will roll it out. Some features are now web-based, things like raise hand that came out recently on the MTR console. That didn't require a new app. That was just pushed down from the cloud onto your tenant and onto everyone's tenant. So, and then again, they also announced in the previous sessions here at Ignite that 7x7 and even other views will come to the Microsoft Teams rooms as well. And I think I saw a demo today. They're already here on the Android-based collaboration bars, and even the phones are getting 3x3 as well. So again, consistency across the whole range of the Microsoft devices.
I think that Greg actually said on a feature this morning. Greg is from the product group at Microsoft. He actually said on one of the sessions this morning, 3x3 will be here by the end of the calendar year. So I'm hopeful that you'll see it start to roll out relatively soon, depending on which ring you're on.
Thank you, experts. All right. Very common question theme that we are seeing pile in here right now is about management. And so this question comes around how to manage the MTR update. And to give you guys a little background, where this question is talking about is the person asking this question has stated that they have experienced issues with MTR app updates causing issues impacting user experience. And they want to know how to manage these updates to validate before rollout. What is MS doing? So what is Microsoft doing? But also maybe what are manufacturers doing as well to add services on top of what Microsoft is doing to help with the management of these updates?
I'll take this one, Graham. So Graham and I actually host a webinar program that we do monthly. It's called the MTR AMA, and if you want to sign up for it, you can go to Graham's blog. And we had an extensive, probably a 2-hour session, discussion on this a couple months ago. And we have everybody from end customers all the way through to actually Microsoft people that joined the call. And there were a lot of Microsoft people on that call. And when we brought the management system up, there's a lot of guidance to it. Number one, I know that Microsoft says you can join the domain. I know that there's a lot of gotchas that with joining the domain that I personally and a lot of others say we probably should stay away from joining the domain. But Microsoft also just released a whole bunch of new features that actually have the Teams Admin Center managing a lot of these things. Now, they've got 2 different levels of licenses that come with the Teams Admin Center. One is standard, and that's where you're going to get a whole bunch of analytics, a whole bunch of things, and the device actually auto-enrolls into the Teams Admin Center automatically. So you don't have to worry about, hey, I got to bring this in, I have to do this, I have to do A, B, and C. The next level of license is actually MTR Premium. And MTR Premium really gives you that sort of management aspect where you can actually set up what are called rings. And it's very similar to the way that Microsoft does their O365 deployments. They have ring 1 and ring 2 and ring 3 and so on, where you can assign what ring is actually out there, and you can update your app based upon that ring. MTR Premium is a service above and beyond the MTR standard, but it's available there, and that's probably my biggest suggestion for people is to get enrolled inside of the MTR Premium side and see what value it brings, because I think that some customers have had some challenges in the past, and I think that Microsoft is responding to those challenges and actually putting things into the Teams Admin Center so you have one place to look at for management.
Fantastic.
I think just to add on to there again, another session at Ignite. There was a whole session actually on Teams Admin Center Management with Jamie Stark, and again in other sessions as well around the devices. It was sort of mentioned that again controlling the the whole MTR experience will be, something that will come to Teams Admin Center. It's relatively new, launched I think at Inspire a couple of months ago, so more features will roll into the Teams Admin Center as we move forward. We do have enterprise customers that are running Microsoft tools such as SCCM, so they're managing the devices just like their devices on the laptops and PCs. But again, adhering to the Microsoft guidelines and not pushing out newer updates such as 2004 and other features. So again, they want to have a monthly cycle to push out their updates again, because then they know that by the 30th of the month, all these other people who leave them to auto update on the internet would have discovered any issues. So they're comfortable with then rolling them out, whether that's the Microsoft Teams Room app that comes from the store or any just general Windows updates and Defender updates. So there's lots of choices. There's no right answer to manage your updates. There's lots of best practices.
That's the trickiest part, Graham. Is there's like 2 hours of discussion that we could have on this topic alone and go through it. There's multiple things that people can do. I, for one, am a big fan of what they're doing in the Teams Admin Center. I think it's something to watch, and I think it's something that will satisfy a lot of people that are rolling these out.
Great, thank you, experts. Yeah, I know management, of course, could probably take up 5 of these Ask the Expert sessions. So thank you for your input on this. It's been a common theme here in the questions. Graham, let's head over to you. A quick question that's been asked a couple times. Can MTR join as presenters in Teams live events?
So there's actually a blog and a video on this. Microsoft Teams Rooms can join live events like we're doing today. And so one of the common questions is, you can join as a presenter. Obviously, you can't join as a producer because you need those controls, and obviously you need things like Q&A. The other big request is, can I join a Microsoft Teams room as an attendee? We can all join it through a browser, that's fine, or we can join it through our Teams client. What you can't do today is join it as a regular attendee. But again, I believe they're looking into those features to allow the rooms, because again, you may want to gather people in a conference room or a big open area auditorium and have it on Teams, rather than everyone sitting at their desk using up multiple entries of bandwidth into Teams. So it is coming for that attendee role, but certainly you can do join as a presenter.
Thank you, Graham. All right, another question, sticking on the MTR theme. When will Intelligent Speaker be available for purchase or lit up within MTRs?
So the Intelligent Speaker is something that they just announced here at Ignite. Joe and I were part of some previews, and we've seen some of this before for the last, I guess we've known about it for about a year now. Some background of people who have been shared some of the roadmap, but it was just sort of announced here at Ignite. If the sessions that I've been watching where the product group is right, it's going to be calendar year 2021. And I don't think it's going to be towards the beginning of calendar year 2021. I think it's probably going to be the middle to the end of calendar year 2021, if I remember correctly, the roadmap that everybody said. I think it's an important sort of addition to the room systems. I think it really will expand if the capabilities are what they're showing, where people can say Cortana, it'll automatically take the notes, it'll identify who's actually speaking, it'll then take the notes and then categorize them in a post-meeting sort of assignment blog. I think those kind of things are the features that you're going to get only from the certified MTR systems, and I think those are the kind of things that you really want to sort of take advantage of when they're out. I do think that you're going to see a lot of this stuff sort of come to fruition this year. And one of the great things, I know Ilya speaks to this all the time. They always view these MTRs as something where you get the hardware and then it's almost like a Tesla. Tesla's, you get the hardware and then it's really sort of enhanced by the software that comes down over time. And they're adding these things as they're available. Now, the intelligent speaker is something that you're going to want to stay with these intelligent speakers with. But I think once the hardware is there, I think you're going to see them do a lot with those intelligent speakers.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. We got 2 questions here that are really focused around the room systems and the hardware themselves. So let's go one by one. First one, this actually kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning. It comes from Sam. They state a common scenario they're running into is the need for a room with both BYOD and in-room native touch, an in-room native join. How can this be done, and any recommendations from hardware?
So again, one of the common scenarios for BYOD, I guess, is something like guest join access, where that is native, that is built into the system. But there are other solutions that can do that from the vendors. So such as Crestron, they have a Mercury X range. Logitech have their Switch range. I don't know of any other MTR vendors that are working on it, but it is possible then to have this BYOD. So if you do have a Amazon Chime Hangouts whatever platform, you could then join that. Obviously, the user has to bring their laptop and use that feature, and then plug their device and peripherals together, and then you can have that open experience. And then when you leave the room, it's gone back to a sort of native Microsoft Teams environment. So the next user comes in, clicks to join.
So on that same topic of hardware, the next question was, for small and medium room kits, or even up to large kits with cable mics, is there a way to use ceiling mics with these types of MTR systems?
Yeah, ceiling mics are actually, I think, Shure and Sennheiser are the two ceiling mic providers that are actually tested and confirmed working with Teams room systems. Whenever it comes to audio, whenever it comes to cameras or solutions, you want to stay with a certified Teams device. And Microsoft does have it. I think it's AKAMS/Teams devices that you're going to look on, and you're going to see microphones, you're going to see cameras, you're going to see whiteboard cameras, you're going to see all the different devices that are certified by Microsoft. And if I can give you sort of a little bit of example of why you want to stay with a device that's actually certified inside of Teams. When your audio gets to the cloud, and they showed some of this week, where they're actually doing AI and they're helping the audio along. Well, when you get audio to the cloud, it knows what device you're actually using. And if you're not using a certified device, it doesn't know how to handle you. And it sort of puts you into this bucket of, hey, let me give you the most generic way of dealing with this, and I'm going to take these different levels of audio and I'm going to cancel them based upon this reference point, and it's not specific to that device, which means at times you may hear things and at times you may not, because if that echo cancellation all of a sudden doesn't have the right reference point, which happens from time to time, you'll actually cancel out your audio and it won't work. So staying with the Teams device means that the Teams platform that lives in the cloud knows the device that you're using, it knows the audio profile to appropriately give to you, and it knows how to handle that audio solution. So please, if we can say anything during this webinar that we're having here, stay with Teams certified devices, whether that's audio or whether that's video. Your best bet is with the Teams certified devices.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jimmy. Thanks for hammering that home. All right, guys, we only have time for 2 more questions. I want to thank everyone for continuing to ask these questions. I'll ask that the second moderator, Joe, please, for any new questions, please answer those via text. And if anything that I didn't get through here today, to please also reply via text so everyone's questions can be answered. This second to last question, we'll also go back to you, Jimmy. Is that, as an MVP, we've seen announcements all day around Teams panel. Can you tell us a little bit about how or why this panel came to be and how it fits into the intelligent workplace?
Yeah, so about a year ago, Joe Saracen, myself, and Ted Colton, we were out for a roadmap preview with the product team, and we were sort of bantering around some ideas, some different things that we can do, and we had a discussion around scheduling and the way that things work, and how actually Crestron does a lot of the scheduling panels. A lot of our panels are actually directly connected to Exchange, and we know that sort of works, and that's been a history of what we've done for over the years. We know that a lot of companies actually put these scheduling panels outside of the room, even before technology is inside of the room. And we know that when the panels are outside of the room, a lot of times the inside of the room, the technology follows that outside of the room. So the idea was really with Microsoft, they wanted to extend the Teams devices and they wanted to extend this platform of, hey, we have inside of the room technology. Why are we not extending that to the outside part as well? And we had some discussions with them, and Joe actually had further discussions with the product group, like a couple months ago, 6 months ago, where it was decided Microsoft was going to go forward with this platform. And it's something that we at Crestron have been doing for a number of years. But now Microsoft is the expert inside of scheduling. Why are they the expert inside of scheduling? Because they own Exchange. Any scheduling provider that you guys use right now is probably using some Exchange background to actually do that scheduling. So they know exactly sort of where things are and how they work. The Teams panel that's actually being introduced at this show is something I think is going to be a huge opportunity for a lot of people to sort of get that inside of the room data and put it outside. I think what you're going to see, this is a device that's actually built on what's called Teams Android. And they're going to be able to actually bring in Power Apps and a whole bunch of things from different providers. I've seen the idea of catering being actually brought forward. The number of people inside of the room is going to be brought forward. If you're over capacity, that's actually going to show outside. I know the idea of actually having a doorbell and letting people know inside of the room that, hey, the next meeting is here, so you don't have to open that door and disrupt their entire meeting. Those are the kind of things that are going to come forward with these panels, and they're really going to sort of take that ability to sort of bring the technology that's inside of the room outside of the room. And I think it's something that we really are excited about. It. You know, Crestron is the first vendor to actually bring forward. I know that Yealink was announced with their panel as well. I'm not sure how far along their hardware is. Our hardware will be here in a couple of months, and we'll be able to actually put these systems in. And once the software comes to play, it's the same thing as the room systems. You sort of have the hardware out there, and as Microsoft wants to add features, it's a software update, and it comes and it goes forward. So I think they're going to start out with a pretty wide breadth of availability of these panels to do things. And I think what you're going to see is over time, they're going to actually expand those capabilities.
Thank you, Jimmy. That's fantastic. We won't have time to get to the last question as it is 5:15. So I wanted to throw up this last slide here as a next step. I see a couple questions on here on how to actually interact with us or continue to see this video later on. My recommendations for anyone else that's on here still is to visit the Crestron featured page at Microsoft Ignite. All the information that we talked about there is going to be there today. If you want to find out specific information about Crestron specifically, you can go to crestron.com/flex. And then most importantly, if you guys want to engage further with these experts, you've got Jimmy and you've got Graham available for you. I put their emails up here on this last slide. And
the better place, Andrew, is actually LinkedIn or Twitter. Both of us actually watch that a lot. If you want to sign up for the MTR AMA, I encourage you to go to Graham's blog as well. I think I saw Joe posted it there, so they can sign up for that.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, please join that MTR AMA that Graham and Jimmy host monthly. It's a fantastic resource for everyone. So with that, I want to thank the experts. Thank you so much for your time and answering these questions. But most importantly, I want to thank everyone on the call today for asking your questions and being engaged with these experts. This was a fantastic session. Thank you for your time. And please enjoy the rest of Ignite. Thank you.